I've never told anyone this before. Not my closest friends, not my family, not even the people who were there with me that night. But for some reason, right now, with you listening, it feels safe. Maybe it's because you're not here to judge, or maybe it's because I know you'll understand. Either way, you're the only one I trust with this story. It happened a few years ago, during a time in my life when I was searching for something, maybe adventure, maybe escape, maybe just a break from the routine. I just finished a long, exhausting semester at college, and my mind was restless. So when my friend Jamie suggested a spontaneous road trip, I didn't hesitate. We packed up her old sedan with snacks, blankets, and a playlist of songs we'd been obsessed with all year. The plan was simple: drive until we found somewhere that felt right, somewhere we could just breathe. We left late in the afternoon, chasing the last rays of sunlight as they stretched across the empty highway. I remember feeling free, like the world was wide open and anything could happen. The first few hours were filled with laughter and music, the kind of easy conversation that only happens when you're with someone who knows you inside out. Jamie and I had been friends since high school, and we'd always talked about taking a trip like this. No destination, no expectations, just the road, and whatever we found along the way. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the landscape changed from familiar suburbs to endless stretches of farmland, the sky turning a deep, velvety blue. We stopped at a tiny gas station in a town so small it barely had a name, grabbing coffee and cheap candy to keep us awake. The clerk behind the counter barely looked up, and for a moment, I felt like we were the only two people in the world. Back in the car, Jamie turned down the music and asked if I was nervous. I laughed it off, but the truth was, I felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. There's something about the unknown that's both thrilling and terrifying. We kept driving, the road ahead swallowed by darkness, headlights cutting through the night. Around midnight, we found ourselves on a narrow, winding road that seemed to stretch on forever. The GPS had lost its signal miles back, and our phones were barely clinging to a single bar of service. Jamie joked about us getting lost and having to camp out under the stars, but I could hear the nervous edge in her voice. The world outside the car felt different, quieter, heavier, as if we'd crossed some invisible line into a place where the rules had changed. We passed a faded sign for a town neither of us had heard of, but there were no lights, no houses, just the endless fields and the occasional silhouette of a tree against the night sky. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just the late hour and too much caffeine. But then, up ahead, we saw headlights approaching. At first, it was a relief, proof that we weren't completely alone out here. But as the car drew closer, it slowed down, matching our speed, its high beams glaring into our rearview mirror. Jamie gripped the steering wheel tighter and I felt my heart start to race. The car behind us didn't pass. Instead, it lingered, keeping a careful distance, its headlights unwavering. Jamie tried to brush it off, saying maybe they were just being cautious on these back roads, but I could see her knuckles turning white. We both fell silent, the air in the car growing thick with tension. I glanced at the clock. 12:37. The road was empty except for us and whoever was behind. Jamie pressed the gas a little harder, but the car behind us sped up too, never closing the gap, never falling back. I tried to look for details, a license plate, a make or model, but the glare from the headlights made it impossible. We passed another sign, this one even more faded, pointing toward a side road. Without a word, Jamie turned, hopping to lose them. For a moment, it worked. The headlights disappeared, swallowed by the darkness. We both let out a shaky breath, laughing nervously at how paranoid we'd gotten. But as we rounded a bend, the same headlights reappeared in the distance, this time coming straight toward us. My stomach dropped. Jamie slowed the car, her eyes darting between the road and the approaching headlights. We both knew this wasn't a coincidence anymore. The other car crept closer, its engine rumbling low, until it stopped just a few yards ahead, blocking the narrow road. For a moment, everything was still. I could hear my own heartbeat, loud in the silence. Jamie whispered, "What do we do?" I didn't have an answer. The driver's door of the other car opened and a figure stepped out, silhouetted by the harsh glare of their headlights. They didn't move toward us, just stood there, watching. Jamie's hand found mine, squeezing tight. I could feel her shaking. I reached for my phone, but there was no signal, just the mocking words, "No service," in the corner of the screen. The figure took a step forward, and Jamie threw the car into reverse, tires spinning as we backed down the road. The other car's headlights flickered, then turned off, plunging everything into darkness. We kept moving, not daring to look back, until we found a wider stretch of road and spun the car around, desperate to get away. We drove in silence, the only sound the frantic thumping of our hearts and the hum of the tires on the cracked pavement. Every shadow seemed to move, every flicker of light in the distance made us flinch. Jamie kept glancing in the rearview mirror, her breath shallow and quick. I tried to calm her, but my own voice was shaking. We didn't know where we were going, just away as far and as fast as we could. After what felt like hours, we finally saw the glow of streetlights on the horizon. Relief washed over us, but it was fragile, like a thin layer of ice over deep water. We pulled into a small, empty parking lot next to a closed diner, the neon sign buzzing faintly in the night. Jamie killed the engine, and for a moment we just sat there, letting the silence settle. I wanted to believe we were safe, that the nightmare was over, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still being watched. Jamie reached for my hand again, her grip softer now, and whispered, "Let's just wait here until morning." We tried to rest, but every time a car passed on the distant highway, we tensed, holding our breath until the sound faded. The hours crawled by, the darkness outside pressing in on the windows. I kept replaying the night in my mind, searching for something we missed. A detail, a warning, anything that could explain what happened. Jamie eventually drifted into a restless sleep, but I stayed awake, watching the sky lighten from black to deep blue. When the first rays of dawn finally broke over the horizon, I felt a weight lift from my chest. We survived the night, but something inside me had changed. I realized how quickly safety can turn to fear, how thin the line is between adventure and danger. As Jamie woke, we shared a quiet look, an unspoken promise that we'd never talk about this night to anyone else. But I needed to tell someone, needed to let it out, and that's why I'm telling you now. You're the only one I trust with this story, because I know you'll understand what it's like to feel both brave and afraid at the same time. Even now, whenever I'm driving late at night or see headlights in my rearview mirror, I remember that feeling, the mix of freedom and fear, the way the world can shift in an instant. I don't know who was in that car or what they wanted, and maybe I never will. But I do know that some stories stay with you, shaping the way you see everything after. Thank you for listening, for letting me share this with you. Sometimes just knowing someone else is out there, willing to listen, is enough to make the world feel a little less lonely. If you connected with this story, or if you've ever had a moment where fear and courage collided, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and sometimes sharing them can help someone else feel a little less alone. And if you want to hear more true stories like this, stories that aren't always easy to tell, but are always real, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world to me, and it's what keeps me sharing these moments with you. Thank you for listening, and for being the one I trust with my story.